Everybody, Erica here from In the Company of Cards. Welcome back. If you've been here a while, welcome. If you're new, if you've been here a while, you know from the description that I use Lenormand, Lenormand, Lenormand cards to divine, which means to, look into the future, look into people's motivations, etc. And I do that in terms of politics and just the social climate, both here and abroad. So, also, I'm the author of The Language of Lenormand. It is available anywhere books are sold. If you prefer to read it in French, there is now apparently a French version available through uh, French Amazon, which is Amazon.fr. Uh, the deck I am using is my own deck. If you click the description under every video of mine, you can get information on how to access the book, the deck, a course that I've put up online as well. Um, there are many beautiful Lenormand decks. Mine is just one. I mean, mine is beautiful, but it's just one. So, do a search and see what deck might speak to you. It's just such a beautiful system. I'm in love with it, and I am just thrilled to have been spending this year with you all, showing you what it's capable of. Okay, these are all today viewer questions. Thank you all for all of your kind comments and your thoughtful commentary on my videos. And so these are your questions in no particular order. But before we get to viewer questions, I thought I would look at a question that I had read on before and was correct on, which was this. Apparently, this is the name of it, the Big Beautiful Bill. I predicted that it would pass the House. It did pass the House. So the next test of this bill is in the Senate. And we know that Lindsey Graham has popped his head out of the hole to say that he thinks this bill will not pass. There are reasons why it is problematic. I mean, do your research to figure those out. But what's interesting about the bill is that, well, there's a lot interesting about it. One of the things that's interesting about it is that there are objections to it on the part, of course, of Democrats and anyone left of center. But equally, there are objections for different reasons on the part of very conservative Republicans who don't feel that it's drastic enough or feel that it will just make us go more in debt than we already are. So, in other words, people on both sides object to this bill for different reasons. We know that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, wanted this bill to have moved out of the House and go to the Senate by Memorial Day. This is Memorial Day weekend. The Senate will not take this bill up before Memorial Day. So Memorial Day weekend is over. So I just thought that I would look at the bill and see what will happen to it in the Senate. It's got a lot of bad stuff in it. Spending issues aside, there are other things hidden in that bill, which is why the House was busy doing their wheeling and dealing in the middle of the night for 2 nights, so that people had to vote on it without really reading the fine print. Some of the fine print essentially will hog tie no lesser an entity than the Supreme Court. And we already know that the Supreme Court has kind of hog-tied themselves by giving this guy um, presidential immunity, which is to say absolute power. But it looks like what is hidden in this bill will give him even more control and them less power. So it's a bad bill all around. I'm going to use the letter to represent the bill. And I just am asking the question, how will the bill fare in the Senate? Now, no doubt it will be amended in the Senate, meaning that the bill that was passed by the House will not be the final bill. The Senate will massage it, tweak it, take things out, put things in. But in the end, what I'd like to know is, will the big, beautiful bill hmm, pass? Okay, and we're going to use the letter. It's our central card, our focus card, our significator. Okay, please do like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all of your support of my work. And thank you to those of you who are reading my Substack. I've subscribed to that. It is free to subscribe, although I love it when people choose to make donations to that work. But that's Substack. It's where I write on Wednesdays. Okay, stands for, oops, it's a little bit low, right? The big, beautiful bill of you-know-whos. So we're sticking that here, and we are putting two cards to the left of it, and then two cards to the right of it. And I will pull some clarifiers. Actually ending up pulling more clarifiers than I anticipated. Now, remember that I'm the one doing the reading, so Spirit knows that. And so I have to, I have to trust that Spirit is giving me the information based on my perspective. Meaning, in other words, if I thought that the bill passage was a great thing, then any positive cards would accrue to that. If I thought the bill was a bad thing, any positive cards would uh, well, I don't know. Let's just see what we get. Okay, it is Friday. Okay, we have the lily, the mice. This is the bill. This is you know who, and it's most narcissistic, which is the way he is all the time. And then we have the tree. So let me put them back and then I'll hold them up to talk about them. He really wants this to pass. The lily, I mean, it's a very good card, but he doesn't, he would like there to be agreement among everybody. Just pass the damn thing is what he has said. Don't talk about it. Just pass it. But it looks like this is the card that I can mirror it with. It looks like it will take longer to pass than he would like because this is the card for a long time. I know he's very anxious because I can mirror this mice card, which is anxiety and worry, with his bullying costume. So he's really nervous because not just that he wants it to pass, it's a referendum on his authority, right? On his power and authority, his power to sway people to his will. So he's really worried about this. Okay. So I drew clarifiers on pretty much everything. On this lily, we have the scales, the woman, and the rider. What he wants people to think is, look, I did the bill. So we're going to be fiscally sound and everything's going to be great and things will be balanced. Of course, that's not true. Uh, he is at this point powerless to effect any kind of influence. He's made himself clear. He's done his bullying. We know he wants what he wants. But he's trying to send a message with this bill, which is that he's handled things. We have this mice card, and here he is, fish and child. He's really worried. He's really anxious because he knows that this bill effectively cuts off money to children and to people who are vulnerable, old people, poor people, uh, pregnant women, children. So he's aware of that. He just doesn't want everybody else to be aware of that. Now, here's the letter. This is the bill. The birds, the star, and the cross. Gotta say, I like this. So here's the bill. Here's everybody talking about it. It's actually quite good that that now we're going into this holiday because Memorial Day is a day when a lot of, well, all these politicians, these senators in this case, will return back to their home districts and get an earful about this from their constituents because there will be lots of meetings, town halls, et cetera, during this weekend period. So they will hear a lot. They will get an earful, and they will also be warned about their futures. In other words, again, this bill is draconian, it's cruel, it's ridiculous, and they will pay a price if they vote for this bill. The cross is a card of pain. This bill will cause the citizens pain. Fine, no problem, say the citizens. We will cause you politicians pain. You'll be primaried. Just wait till November 2026. So this is the message that they're going to come back to Washington with. Of course, this is why uh, Mike Johnson wanted the whole thing done and dusted before Memorial Day, because during that Memorial Day weekend, so we're talking Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, during that 4-day essentially holiday period, Mike Johnson and you know who will not be in the ears of the senators. The constituents will be in the ears of the senators. And they will make themselves clear. Okay, this is you know who in his narcissist costume. And we have Scythe, young woman, and dog. I think that this is going to be, even though people will be away from Washington, he will be on the phone, alternately threatening and cajoling. So here's it's like the carrot and the stick. This is the stick. This would be the carrot. Don't you want to be on my side? Don't you want to have dinner at Mar-a-Lago? Don't you want me to, contribute money to your campaign, et cetera, et cetera? If you don't do what I want to do, which is vote for this bill, there will be consequences for you, et cetera. So it's him trying to disempower the senators by being, in whatever, if the constituents are in one ear, he's going to be in their other ear, trying to force them to vote for this bill. We have the tree, followed by the hart, the fox, and the stork. I think there will be lots of filibustering, lots of arguing about the contents of this bill moving forward. But it's true there are a lot of people who are wedded to it, like Johnson, because he wants to be on who's good side. But I think these senators are going to have to decide, whom do we love more? the constituents who put us here or our dear leader who could destroy our careers. I don't think they know. You know, the Fox is about, among other things, deal making uh, done in the dark of night because a fox is sneaky. So I think there will be a lot of deal making made over this weekend. But isn't it interesting that the last card in the reading is the stork? That's positive change. And I can mirror it with the first card, the lily. Now, this is what I was saying in the beginning of the reading is that Spirit knows that my perspective is this bill should not pass. Is Spirit saying to me, relax, Erica, because things will turn out better than you anticipate? I hope so. Um, some version of the bill will be passed because things have to be funded, but it will not be the um, the bill that the House passed. It will be a different bill from the one that they passed, a better bill for us than the one they passed. But I still think it's going to be really problematic. You know, tons of spending for defense, but tons of cuts in terms of people thrown off Medicare and Medicaid, and there'll be work requirements that will probably be, uh, outrageous. Uh, I don't know. I just think this is not going to be so easy to pass as he would like to think that it will be. And I think that part of that is going to be the fact that this is Memorial Day weekend and constituents are going to give their senators a piece of their mind. And I think that's great. So we'll, cross our fingers and say a prayer that this bill is not the one that passes in the end. I had a Canadian viewer who, you know, would like to know whether Mark Carney will complete his 4-year term. You know, a lot can happen between now and the end of that 4-year term. I've heard, the honeymoon period, of course, is always short for politicians, right? They might celebrate the night that they get elected, but then the next day, not only do they have to hit the ground running, the enemy is always just, you know, ready and waiting to put obstacles in their path. So, for example, some people are saying now that Carney was not as hardline with you know who as he claims to have been. Um, I don't know. Let's just look at him and see how his 4-year term can go, understanding that energy is mutable and that free will is a thing and that 4 years is a long time and anything can happen. But I'm going to use the older man for him, for Carney, and let's just see what things look like around him in the next 4 years. And again, I'm looking at this because it was a viewer request. So we're looking for the older man. That will stand for Carney. So here's Carney. All right, and I'm just going to keep it at five cards. We have the tree, the garden, there's Carney, the ring, and the bear. And I'm going to say that I like seeing the tree here. I think that this is about longevity and the health of his tenure, his administration. So, yes, I mean, if I had something like, I don't know, something short like Clover or something sudden like the Scythe as the first card, I'd say, well, I don't know, there might be a problem. But I like this tree. The garden, this is the people. Here he is. And this is for continuity of leadership and him being in charge. And, here this feels like, I don't know, very much like Canada, the bear, right? So I like that a lot. This is not you know who at all. I think with the ring, the bear, the tree, the garden, I think from where I stand here in, May of 2025, I think Mark Carney will serve his 4 years. Yes, that's what I think. If I get a different vibe at any point, I will read on it again. But for now, I think his seat is safe. Another viewer asked me to look at this group of it's an organization called the Election Truth Alliance, and they have a YouTube channel. And so I went and I checked them out. And the viewer wanted me to look at them because, no surprise, they've done research, this Election Truth Alliance, and have discovered election anomalies in every county. Well, does that surprise anybody? Doesn't surprise me. But the question was, what will be the outcome of these discoveries? I'm going to say what I've been saying, which is that we need to move on. The Democrats are not looking, well, they're looking backwards in some ways, like, who's to blame for Biden and all that. But in terms of counting votes, and then recalling the election for Harris, I'm telling you right now, it is not in any universe going to happen. So, were there anomalies in the election? Yes, obviously. We know that Musk did something with Starlink, whatever, to skew the vote. But we also know 36% of Americans stayed home. And we also know that 52% of white women voted the way they voted. I'm just saying. So I feel like, you know, it is good to have an historical record of what happened. But if you're hanging your hat on waking up one day and seeing that everybody who's in office has now been deposed and that the rightful winner of the election, Kamala Harris, has taken her seat behind the Resolute desk, you are kidding yourselves. There will be plenty of people, plenty of other channels who will tell you otherwise. And please, by all means, follow those people if that's what you feel like you need to hear. This is not that channel. So with all of that preamble out of the way, I am going to look at this Election Truth Alliance and whether whatever they find, what will come of whatever they find. So they are a group who meet and who discuss and who investigate, etc. So I think I'm going to use the birds for them. And I'm going to use that as the central card. Will anything come of what this group finds? Okay. Okay, so this card will stand for the Election Truth Alliance. Again, it's a group of volunteers. You can find them on YouTube, and they are investigating, the 2024 election. And they have found election anomalies apparently in every county. And so the viewer wanted to know what will come of that. Okay, and the cards that I pulled are the garden, the coffin, the birds, the bouquet, and the tower. Okay. I may pull clarifiers, I may not. So this is the card for the people, right? The electorate, we'll call it, the American people. I can mirror it with this card, which is government, right? And this is what we're talking about. What happened when the people voted for what kind of government they wanted. Second card, though, is the coffin, and it's mirrored by the bouquet. Uh, I think that it feels to me very much kind of like what I just said. In many ways, this is just a closed thing that who declared himself the winner. He had a lot of help from foreign entities, entertainment purposes only, and allegedly, he had a lot of help from those voters who did not go and vote, but instead stayed home. He had a lot of help from people who said they were going to vote one way and ended up voting another way. They gave him the prize. And I think this is a coffin. Sometimes a coffin is just a coffin. I think that a coffin is a closed box. And I think that in terms of a re-litigating of this election, I think that that is a closed topic. I don't think that this organization, except for the sake of posterity and historians who look back on this election and want to sort of dig into why, I'm sure that their findings will be very helpful to those kinds of people in the future. But in terms of it affecting any kind of shift or change, we're not going to get out of this situation that we're in through that kind of an emergency exit. That door does not exist. So, yeah. Okay. Another viewer question, I thought this was pretty interesting, was about something that I referenced last time, last video, which was the Department of Weaponization. And as I mentioned, they're saying that the Department of Weaponization is looking into investigating entities or people who, quote, weaponized against you know who. But really, that's not what they're doing. Ed Martin, who is the czar of this Department of Weaponization, has made very clear what it is. It is to look for people who are considered enemies of you know who. And as Ed Martin said, I mentioned this in my last video, there will be no one who's off limits. The viewer question was about social media influencers. And by that, they said that they meant people like me who read cards. Would the weaponization department or Department of Weaponization, the weaponization czar, go after card readers and influencers like that? I mean, he said there's no one off limits. So I'm not sure why the question. I mean, and I've told you before that there are people who used to do this work here in this space who don't do it anymore because they're afraid. You know, my philosophy has always been, uh, one that you've heard before, which is courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting in the face of fear. And I wrote about this, by the way, in my last Substack. So go to substack.com, look for In the Company of Cards, give me a subscribe there. That would be great. And you can read that article. So do people who do my kind of work, meaning diviners, readers, and a lot of the ones that you find now are overseas. right? They'll be in Europe or they're in Australia or Canada or whatever. So the numbers of us who are Americans who are doing this work is has decreased. I've seen that. Uh, should we be afraid? Because of course it's the Americans who do this work who would be in the sight, the crosshairs of any uh, weaponization department czar. All right, so I guess what I'll do is I'll use the stars, and the stars will stand for this space, this public space where people like me do this work. So I'll look for the stars and I'll see if they are endangered in any specific way. So do your due diligence, check out who Ed Martin is. Um, Scary guy, big proponent of Project 2025. And just, I mean, the fact that there's even such a thing as the Department of Weaponization tells you all you need to know. So that's people like me who do this kind of work in a public space. Okay, so we have the bear, the mountain. This is doing this kind of punditry, this kind of political commentary, either with or without cards. That's this card here. And then the ship and you know who. So we've got you know who flanking the spread. So I'll put it down and hold those cards up again. At the beginning and the end of the line, we see iterations of you know who, 47. Um, and it makes me feel very much as though people in this space will start to feel squeezed because these two cards flank the other cards. So what will happen? I mean, they'll be encouraged, or spaces like this will be encouraged to fiddle with their algorithm so that people like me will be more difficult for you to find. You may very well find that, and I've had viewers say this, I subscribed to you, and then I wasn't seeing anything from you, so I went to your page and I saw that I had been unsubscribed. I didn't do that. They didn't do that, so why are they unsubscribed? So, there are little things that they can do algorithmically that will make people like me less visible. So that will happen. Yeah, they will try to go through with that. They will move forward with that. And again, it's to squeeze people. So yes, I mean, but this is not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Uh, this administration doesn't allow for freedom of thought, difference of opinion. So my theory is that I'm going to ride it till the wheels fall off. If the wheels fall off, well, I fought the good fight, right? I'm not going to leave preemptively in advance. I am not going to agree in advance to being silenced. And I think a lot of people aren't. I mean, again, go to Substack, look at Midas Touch. Um, those are the big sort of spaces now where people are going. And it doesn't mean that those spaces will be um, immune from persecution and prosecution. But again, do you not do something because you're afraid that you're going to get shut down? That's never been my philosophy. So, uh, yes, he'll come after influencers. He will. So that's your answer. Another viewer asked me about the writer Ta-Nehisi Coates. If you're not familiar with him, I commend his work to you. He's terrific. But anyway, there was a case, a copyright lawsuit lodged against him. Someone saying that I think it was about copyright infringement. Um, you could argue plagiarism, that he lifted something from somebody else's work. And a lower court threw the case out and said, yeah, nah, this is not true. There was nothing even halfway similar about Ta-Nehisi Coates's work in this particular instance and whoever brought the lawsuit. Well, the suit then rose up to the level of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court um, affirmed, they recused, meaning that they declined to weigh in on the case, saying that the consequence of that is that essentially their refusal to weigh in on the case means that they are essentially affirming that lower case's finding that there's no grounds for a lawsuit. So the viewer asked me, why did the Supreme Court recuse without commentary? I don't know that that requires cards, but I will explain. I mean, I'll ask the cards in a second, but my assumption is that the lower court made a ruling, and the ruling said, listen, mister, you're accusing Ta-Nehisi Coates of copyright infringement or plagiarism or whatever. We see no evidence of that, so your suit cannot go forward. That's what the lower court found. The Supreme Court said, we recuse ourselves, which means we are not going to take up our very valuable time to hear this case, which is the same thing as saying the reason that we're not taking up this case is because the lower court's finding makes sense to us. That's the whole reason. So, what more commentary would you want from the Supreme Court on that? I'll pull three cards and see if they say anything. I just think it's a done deal. The lower court said Ta-Nehisi Coates did nothing wrong. And the Supreme Court said, yeah, what they said. He did nothing wrong. So, I think that the scythe in the middle is the card that is worth paying attention to, which is, you know, in moving forward, there is no future for this lawsuit. We have cut the future off for this particular lawsuit. We have made a decision, and our decision is what the lower court said. The lower court said there's no case. And we, the Supreme Court, are the final arbiters. We don't have time for all this. This is frivolous. I think they would even argue. But they didn't want to get into a what contest with anybody. So they just said, no, this is not worth our time. The lower court has ruled in favor of Ta-Nehisi Coates. So there you go. I think it was as simple as that. I don't think there's anything nefarious to be read into the fact that they recused without commentary. I think that's fine. Two more questions. One is about COVID. And we now know that uh, thanks to RFK Jr., you will not, and I mentioned this, I feel like I mentioned this last time, you're not going to be allowed to just roll up and get the next COVID vaccine in the fall. That, prior, you didn't have to get it, but if you wanted it, you could get it. The rules have been changed so that now only certain people can get it. If you're over 65, you can get it. That's good. If you have certain medical conditions, you can get it. But the regular general public under 65 will not automatically have access to the vaccine. Okay. I mentioned, though, at a way long ago, months ago, that there was going to be a resurgence of COVID. And I had a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but I had some people say that I was fear mongering. Uh, okay. But I recently had a viewer who asked me to, well, what they said was that there is a new strain of COVID that is being talked about all over the Asian diaspora. Um, they thought it was called JN1, but they weren't sure. But anyway, it's this new strain of COVID that has hit Hong Kong, Singapore, and India very hard. And they said that they could find nothing really about it in the American press. And part of that is because a lot of information has been shut down. There are certain watchdog agencies that are keeping track, but in terms of things like, the CDC, we're not being given information. So we now also know that there are preparations for the new vaccine, the one that everybody won't be able to get. But that they want to do have control studies on the vaccine before it is more widely disseminated. I'm not sure that that vaccine will address this new Asian strain. So I think I just want to look again at what I saw before, which is that we are in for another bad COVID um, season. Uh, and this time without any of the safeguards that we had the last time. So I think what I'm going to use for COVID is stars. Each card has multiple meanings, right? And stars in a health reading um, stands for like a spread. So I'm looking at this spread of the contagion of COVID, the new strain. Will we have, what will our COVID season look like moving forward? Will this Asian strain come over here and then affect us seriously and deeply because we don't have any safeguards in place? So we're going to use the stars for COVID. I encouraged people to get the current vaccine. This was the last time that I read on this question. It was months and months ago. I've had mine. Here it is. Okay, so this will stand for any new COVID contagion, including the new one in Asia that we're not talking about here. Before I talk about what I pulled, I think I'm gonna pull some clarifiers. Okay, so we have rider, we have the scales. This stands for the COVID infection, the anchor, and the birds. So the messaging that the government wants to give out, this is the messaging, is that everything's under control. We've got it all figured out. We've balanced everything. All the equations are balanced. Everything's fine. There's nothing to see here. Here's the contagion. And uh, but COVID is here to stay. And there is buzz about it, if not in the States, in the Asian diaspora. And that word will get to us. Here I am giving you the word. Entertainment purposes only and allegedly, all of that. But nevertheless, the word will get out from Asia and then people will start to talk. Ooh, sorry, dropped a card. Okay. I pulled clarifiers on the last three cards. So on the subject of the COVID infection, again, people, this is the populace, will be kept in the dark about what it is, how bad it is, how quick it is, how virulent it is. There will be a smoke screen between that information and the people, even as the contagion comes towards us across the sea. Second card that I pulled cards on is our fourth card, which is the anchor, meaning that COVID has never actually gone away and it just morphs, um, into its next iteration. And the clarifiers are not great. They are the fox, the scythe, and the cross. So, it's here to stay and and the new one is on its way. Um, these are experts in immunology and in contagious diseases and that kind of thing. These are the experts. But, you know, because the news is not being disseminated in terms of what the new thing will look like, how we can protect ourselves to the degree that we can, the fact that everybody can't get a new vaccination. The fact that I'm not sure that that new vaccination will speak to that new strain does not bode well. A scythe and a cross, there will be big casualties, I suspect. Um, birds. Remember, I said that people are going to talk. The word's going to get out, whether the government shuts down information or not. You know, but he, who, will want the government to continue the happy talk. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Nothing to see here. I can mirror this card with this card. The message will be, we've got everything under control. And if not, I mean, you've got bleach in your house, right? Just drink some bleach. Entertainment purposes only. Do not drink bleach. You know what that's all about. So the happy talk will continue. He does not want to be associated with this next thing coming down the pike. But as per my viewer in Asia, assuring me that it's all over the news in Asia, it is consistent with what I saw. And so if you can get the vaccine, get the vaccine. Um, we are at the mercy of a madman, entertainment purposes only, allegedly. So protect yourself as you are able, as you see fit, especially if you're going abroad, especially if you are in crowds at all. We don't know how this newest strain is spread. We don't know. And I suspect we won't be told either. I mean, this is just one more leg of this just beast um, coming at us. All right, my last question. So, whose latest move was to tell Harvard that they could not accept international students anymore. And uh, international students are fully 1/4 of my alma mater's student body. I mean, if you count undergrad and graduate students, um, 1/4 of the people who go to Harvard are from overseas. The government does apparently have a lot of sway and leeway here. So if people are considered a threat, for example, they're not allowed to come in. But Harvard has um, filed its own lawsuit around this and said that this is nothing but an intimidation uh, tactic. It's punitive. It is based in nothing logical except um, revenge, I guess, for Harvard not capitulating in the same way that, sad to say, Columbia has. So they filed a lawsuit. A judge heard the lawsuit and has put a stop on the government, which is to say that things can continue to proceed apace and foreign students are allowed to go to Harvard. But that was just a temporary fix, right? You know, this case is going to go to the Supreme Court. And we know that even though the lower courts have seemed to be um, terrific bastions for us against this abuse of power, we cannot say the same thing always about the Supreme Court. So I thought I would look at what the Supreme Court will rule when it comes to 47's decree that Harvard is not allowed to take in international students. What will the court do? So I think I'll use the tower, and that will stand not for the government, but for the court, Supreme Court. What will they decide? Because you know it's gonna go up the chain to them. What will the Supreme Court decide? Okay. Um, these cards to me look optimistic. Even though there's some negative cards here, I think um, they mean something good for us. So we have the cross, the lily, the Supreme Court, the bear, and the snake. I think that with this cross card, uh, the Supreme Court will say, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, traditionally, when you see a line that begins with the cross, the question is kind of a non-starter. But here we are. I'm not going to repull. I think that the court will decide that uh, this decree by you know who was vindictive, petty, punitive, onerous, and wrong. Because the last card in the line is the snake. All he wanted to do was cause problems for a university that is not bending the knee. Um, we have the lily mirroring the bear. And I think this is the Supreme Court saying to you know who in his narcissistic costume, down boy, that was overreach. So, I have my reservations about the Supreme Court and its motivations and its actions. However, they will not side with him on this matter. It's also true Harvard has resources that could help them weather even a storm like that. But I don't think that this will be a storm they will have to weather. I think that should this go to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court will tell him, down boy, you overreached. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And we don't condone that. So that's the good news. All right. It is Friday. I don't have a Sunday conversation coming up for Sunday because, it's a weekend, but I may pop on one of the 2 days. And just if you have questions, put them in the comments and I will look at your questions. If things occur to me to talk about this weekend, I'll come on one of the 2 days and I will, just pull some cards. Okay. So listen, have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Remember the reason for this season. It's Memorial Day. It's to commemorate those who died in battle. And we ourselves are in a battle. And a lot of these people who died were fighting for our right to be in a free country where freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of movement are championed and defended. And we are at risk of losing all of those things. So, for the sake of those whom we memorialize this weekend and on Monday, I think it's worth taking a moment to bear that in mind. Also, to bear in mind the fact that we are all scared. Like, of course, I'm scared, but being scared is no reason to step back and let whatever is going to wash over us. Um, that's not the right response. Courage is acting in the face of fear. So I try to do that. I hope you do too. And I will be thinking of those who um, fought and died for us to have this kind of freedom of speech that we've got here on this platform as well as others. So I will see you very soon, and you take care.